It's another Monday, which means it's another beautiful Flashpoint Q&A. Here we are in the online CS:GO wasteland with nothing better to do than to talk about how Steel is upsetting Team Liquid in DreamHack Masters. Good job.
Thanks.
I mean, it's everybody upsets Team Liquid these days, but you're one in a long line.
Not
of teams.
MIBR, to be fair. MIBR can't do it, but everyone else, you're right. I do.
Well,
hey, if we lost MIBR though, so it's okay.
I'm sorry. You guys were very close to getting out of your group. Also, I have to say, I'm surprised as the man banned from CS:GO majors who has still not made the transition to Valorant. You're sticking it out. You're sticking it out here on Team Chaos for the time being.
Contracts are a bitch, huh?
I see. I thought it was passion for the game, but nope, it's just contracts. Well, you guys still doing well.
We'll see. We'll see when Valorant starts shaping up and the community starts shaping up and everything. I'll reassess at that point. But
I see.
It's just like full focus on CS.
I see you are an intelligent man waiting for the scene to actually develop and to prove that it is an esport before jumping right into it. You sure? You know, there's a lot of room out there if you want to have some stream meme tournaments with Skadoodle. Man, it's right there for you.
It's true. I don't know. Maybe I should just bite the bullet and just get on over.
You definitely play your fair share, though, right? You play quite a bit, right?
I haven't played it for at least 2 weeks, actually. But I did when the game first came out, because we had roster issues and because we had no actual things to play in. The leagues kind of slowed down. Like Flashpoint had just ended, so I had a lot of time to play for a couple of weeks. I streamed a lot of it as well. And then when Ranked came out, I played a little bit of that. But then since Ranked came out, I probably only played like 10 games total. And that's it. I haven't played in like the last 2 weeks at least.
I will say that my experience with Valorant so far has been, and I've talked to a lot of other people that have had this same take, which is like, I play some Valorant, and then what it makes me want to do is play CS. Like that's where I ended up after playing, and yeah, I don't know, just need some more variety, but we'll see when they introduce some new maps. How about you, Xizt? We haven't even talked to you yet.
Yeah, what's up?
How are you?
I mean, I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah, I also played some Valorant just when it came out, like for a week or something, but then I kind of grew tired of it, and once the CS season started, I just couldn't continue. And I think that's something that Thorin was tweeting about. There was a lot of, especially NA pros, I think, still playing a lot of Valorant. Meanwhile, Flashpoint, or was it Pro League maybe, that was live? And,
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah. So I just couldn't do that, obviously.
You know, some people.
See, there's actually a lesson to young pros here. You can play all you want when it's the off season or when there's no tournaments. Yeah, do whatever you want, but like, don't play while you're trying to compete for millions of dollars. It doesn't make sense for your career.
I actually like playing variety of games. While I don't like playing CS only. If I'm got like a bunch of CS competitions, obviously CS is the focus. But I think doing like an hour here or there, or like a couple hours here or there of a different game, not necessarily like a Valorant, but like if I do like 1 hour Valorant today and then tomorrow I play, okay, if this was like a year ago or something, PUBG. Today's
Sure.
PUBG, and never mind. But like Warcraft, just anything, StarCraft, like an RTS game, anything like that. I think it's good because it helps. Like if I play PUBG, for example, it helps me with my patience in Counter-Strike. And I think there's other skills and things that you can pick up from other games that you can apply to Counter-Strike.
I'm with you if it's like
thinking out the box.
like an hour, like to let off steam. Yeah, that's one.
But
thing.
if you're
The
just
difference
like
is like your boy Wardell was
hours.
just playing all night long until like his playoff match in Flashpoint, which, by the way, for him was the biggest game of his entire life, and maybe what always will be. So
no, we had a deep run at ESL Season 8 for League. Just saying.
Deep. How deep is deep?
We got to the quarterfinals. We lost 2-1 to Navi in the
that's actually not bad.
quarterfinals.
Yeah. Oh,
we
fair
beat
enough.
NRG there when they were like the top
there you
8 in the world or whatever. Yeah.
Fair enough.
We got pretty deep there.
You know, Xizt, whenever I see your name, which I accidentally misspelled here because I'm dumb, I think of, have you seen that David Cronenberg movie, Existence, with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law?
No, I don't think so.
Have you seen that one, Thorin?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It is.
Basically sort of like The Matrix. It's like that sort of a take. But if you're a gamer, you'd like it, actually. It's
about video
like
games.
video game worlds, but it's like VR and stuff. It's like it's a similar era as well. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's entertaining. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just because of the spelling of your name that makes me think about it. All right, let's start taking some questions from Twitch chat because unfortunately that's what brings us together on this fine day is, devolving to the level of meme spammers. So one of the questions is, are we going to run Valorant tournaments? Would love to. Get back to us, Riot, on that one. Yep, that would be fun.
I can see Steel is sweating. A lot of Brazilians in the chat, I think.
Yeah, just you give me the old sign off. And
you can literally just put out tweets and not even read the comments, and you know that everyone's so heated, and you just don't even. It's so funny.
Do you think that teams that are having poor results during the online period will overreact and make changes without any understanding of how they would perform on LAN? That actually is an interesting question, I think.
I mean, the joke here, by the way, would be if you're from the NA scene, they used to do that anyway with online results anyway. Like anyone who's ever seen MDL, like half the rosters are just barren like 6 weeks in when people know they can't make playoffs. So I think that already did exist in CS. What were you going to say though exists? Like, do you think in Europe it'll actually happen to real teams? Like, I mean, Mouse Sport's a good example, right? They've lost like every fucking game.
I was gonna say like Mouse Sports, for example. I mean, I hope they don't make a change just because of these results. They've been really good on LAN, I think, last 6 months or something. Like so many top placements. And now online they've just been like really bad, not even close to what they were on LAN. I don't know why. But yeah. I hope they don't make a change.
For North America, I'm not sure. Like you can't really at the top, especially like a team like Liquid or EG and Gen.G, like those teams aren't probably going to make any changes anytime soon based off of online results. Like it is online, people are playing like, potentially with 80 ping plus, and then, maybe the motivation's not there because you play, every week, like maybe 3 weeks in a month, you're playing at an event in person on LAN, like in front of like a stadium full of a huge ass crowd, and then you're coming online, you're just playing this like online group stage from like the comfort of your home against some people that have literally never qualified for LAN before. It's like, are you really gonna look at that seriously? And then who are you gonna pick up even then? It's like all the people that kind of were just under the cutoff for people that would be kind of like, oh yeah, they could get this guy. They all just left to Valorant anyways. So it's like, who are you gonna pick up? Some guy that's gone to like maybe a couple of Fragadelphias?
I also feel like this is one of the problems with where like people can't say certain things without having consequences. Like let's be real. Anyone who's a veteran in Counter-Strike and has played loads of LANs, I'm pretty sure most of them have the similar sentiment to what we've kind of explained here. Like if you're really, like, for example, you're not just going to cut Carrigan from Mouse just because they lost a bunch of online tournaments. Like getting that guy into your team was so essential for making you the team you were. But at the same time, you can't then come out and go, you know what, guys, doesn't matter that we're losing every game. Who gives a fuck about online tournaments? By the way, fuck yourself, fuck Dream. Like you can't just do that because that's also going to be such a bad look for your team. And then all fans will be up in arms that you're not being a professional. So even though I think a lot of the top teams do kind of buy that sentiment, I think they just have to pretend like this is still life and death. And even in the moment when you make yourself believe this is the most important competition, it isn't. Like, if next month we had LANs, we could just delete it all if Na'Vi wins the next LAN or something. It won't matter that they couldn't even get to the playoffs of like Road to Rio or whatever,
Yeah, I think it comes down to like mindset a lot for the experienced pro players. Like if you look at Fnatic, I know they have a mental coach who's really good, and they won Pro League, which was online. So I'm sure he had something to do with that, trying to get the guys excited and practice a lot for the online tournaments. And also Astralis, they're going really hard now. Obviously, they have really good management, I think, at least from what I've heard. So I think having a good org and a good management behind you that can like motivate you to play extra. Like good online, I don't know. It's a lot of difference from LAN tournaments.
To be fair, when he says they have really good management, like he was previously in NIP and FaZe Clan, so I'll just leave it at that. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
I mean, like mental coaches. I know they have this.
I get
professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get your point.
It's just a joke. They have those in Scandinavia too.
Against,
I've heard that there are in fact jokes in Scandinavia, but I've yet to see it. Anyway, let's discuss some of the interesting news lately. Nobody's asked this question, but I want to get your guys' take of it because we haven't had a show. So both Glaive and Olaf Meister have now decided they're going on breaks. This is really interesting to me because it seems like they're taking advantage of the fact that it's all online play anyway, but isn't this theoretically the time where you would have the least burnout because everybody's just kind of at home, not running the usual like 200 or 300 days a year of traveling around the world playing in tournaments? What do you make of this?
It depends if it's like, if you have had it building up for years, then you can make the argument that it's not really like, yeah, even though it's transitioned to online and there's less burnout because there's less traveling and less other stuff, it's like we still have all these interviews for all these online leagues now where it's just like you have these just virtual media days and stuff like that. Like we have to do for a Blast, for example, we have to do like some 2 hours of like deathmatch FFA thing, right? Now, that's not like to kind of like excuse a 3-month break. I don't know what he's gone through. I don't know what he's feeling. So I don't want to like stay here and be like 3 months is outrageous, but unplug for a couple weeks, go to it. I mean, it's hard right now during a pandemic as well, but I'd be like, go to an all-inclusive resort, 2 weeks, just get, eat at a buffet and get drunk every day, sit on a beach and play some beach volleyball or something. And
sounds great.
come back in a couple of weeks, unplug from social media, unplug from everything, and you're good to go.
Is that how it is in NA?
Do you need to? I haven't done it since like 2014, so I don't know. Fuck, I need one right now.
I think
3 months hiatus. Chaos, will you pay for me while I do this shit? I don't know. Fuck.
I think what really needs to happen in esports is that we need to, as an industry, rent like a private resort in Mexico, all just for industry people, and then everyone can just go there and do whatever the hell they want together for a couple weeks. That would probably be mad fun. But anyway, I like your idea.
So basically, the Sempus Castle idea is like actually gaining traction.
I don't know what that is, but sure.
It's too long to.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to explain it to me. I'm sure people appreciated the reference. But Thorin, you have any thoughts on these guys taking breaks at this point in time?
Right. I'll interact with these ideas and engage them on a sincere level. First of all, like I think there obviously are big problems with the calendar in CS:GO. The circuit has probably too many events. If people wonder why you can't just say no to events, it's because unless you're in like the top 8 to 10 teams, you probably don't get the invite really early on, so you have to qualify. So then if you say no to another event, maybe you failed the qualifier. Now you've got no events for 2 months. So, and also, by the way, by not attending events, that's how you drop out the rankings, and you're sort of in a catch-22. So I definitely feel for players in that regard. But the problem is, I'll then also engage the more cynical part of my brain, which says, with this exact timing, when actually now would be the perfect time to take a break, by the way, we're not on LAN. These aren't the tournaments that will count towards people's like legacies as great players. Now is the best time to take a break. Simultaneously, if you also just had flagging motivation, maybe you just don't even want to play in your team for a while, you want to try free agency in 6 months. This would also be a brilliant excuse to give right now to get away with that, because nobody can question it. No one can say, but you're full of shit, you're not burned out. It's like, if someone says it, it's like if someone said they're ill, you have to just believe them, right? Well, I've known cases in the past where people lied to get out of teams and said they were ill or they were going to retire and then magically just came back 6 months later. So I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's definitely a real burnout problem. And I think, I won't say which cases, but some of them I suspect it's not necessarily that they were necessarily like medically needing a leave. It's just some of them just wanted to retire or quit the contract, or maybe they just don't feel like playing CS anymore.
I think Olaf wrote in his statement that it's like motivational issues. I don't know exactly why he quit, but I think it's 2 different reasons. I think Glaive was playing really well. They were winning events.
Sure.
Olaf, he was struggling lately. So it's like 2 different things. I don't know.
It's just a weird thing, though. That is actually as mad as it sounds. When I find that out behind the scenes, like the player I've always mentioned this because he doesn't mind me saying it publicly, is Kenny S. Like if Kenny S is ever bad at CS:GO, I'm not exaggerating. That is nearly always like if you had a graph of how many hours he's playing outside of practice, like anytime it's at the lowest is when he's the worst in the game. Like he's one of those people whose talent just it just gets activated when he plays the game a lot. So there's a lot of players like that. So as weird as it sounds, I actually find that more comforting to believe he could maybe come back in the future. If at least he wasn't motivated, maybe didn't play as much, didn't study the game as much. If he's then bad, fine, maybe he can come back later. If he was one of those players who was trying his absolute hardest, like Neo and Taz, and then they're still bad, that's kind of depressing, because then you just know they've fallen off, unfortunately.
So this is an interesting question that I actually don't know the answer to in regards to your ban, Steel. Are you technically banned from CSGO or from all future versions of CS? Because the question here is, are you going to be? Do you think you'll be unbanned if the Source 2 engine comes out in CS:GO, but it's not officially a new game, which is a very weird technicality?
I know everything that you know, and that's the wording in the blog post. Is I'm not welcome at Valve sponsored events. So if it's a Valve major, if Valve has any hand
Got
in
it.
it, or like E-League, I think is also like pretty tight with Valve.
Yes.
So I would not be allowed at any of those events, and I'm assuming that extends to if I just become a Dota 2 pro tomorrow, I probably wouldn't be allowed at those
Got it.
events either.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware from the wording, and
That's
I
the
don't know
weird
if that's
thing-
ever going to
sorry.
change.
That's the weird thing, though, is like that's exactly why we actually need like someone we can ask questions like that so we know in advance. Because the thing that doesn't make sense about that as a ruling is you are literally allowed to have cheated in CS 1.6 and been VAC banned, but as long as you weren't in CS:GO, you're allowed to play CS:GO and be a pro. You can cheat in other Valve games and still play in CS:GO as a pro player. So to me, it's mad inconsistent. Like I don't know what the logic is there.
Yeah, it's weird for sure. To expand on this point, I'm curious, this is another me question. If the Source 2 engine were to come along for Counter-Strike, what are the core things you would like to see changed about CS:GO that a new engine could address?
Performance issues probably is the main thing. Whether it be like, I don't know if they can address Peeker's advantage, but like FPS drops, especially in like smoke battles. I don't know if there's a way that performance could be like way better if you're running an anti-cheat client, like the Faceit anti-cheat, the ESCA anti-cheat. Holy shit! If you have 300 FPS normally, like you're just playing normally 300 FPS, you load up one of those anti-cheats and you start spraying in a smoke, it's going down to like 120, 100. And like to someone that doesn't play on a competitive level, they might be like, well, 100's but I can only see 24 FPS or some shit like that. It's like, well, actually, like you will actually see people earlier, like they'll render on your screen earlier if you have higher FPS. If you have higher FPS, the spray will feel smoother. Like it's easier to handle your recoil control, your bullets shoot faster. Like I'm not making this up. Like the game fundamentally changes on a huge level when you're looking at like constant 300 FPS to like FPS that goes anywhere between 100 and 300 during a fight.
Yeah, maybe they can put 128 tick servers. I don't know if it's going to be possible with the new Source
I don't play
engine.
matchmaking anyways. Who cares?
No, but like you said, performance issues I think is the most important thing to fix. A lot of like sometimes the bullets just don't register. You feel like when you're lagging a bit, like server lag. Especially like I don't know if you agree still, but like when you shoot the guy through a smoke or like at the edge of a smoke, sometimes you feel like the smoke is eating the bullets, or how you say it.
This just
the bullets
happens in
just
general.
disappears.
Yeah, the bullets
and the
disappear
guy
on the
don't
internet
die.
all the time. It's less of an issue on LAN for sure, but
Yeah.
like on LAN also, like there's less latency to the server. Like there's no packet loss. There's you're on tournament PCs where there's no like other shit. You don't have Discord installed on your PC and like other background processes like Valorant's anti-cheat running in the background of your computer or whatever. So those also help. So it's online. It's like way worse. And especially with higher ping, like if you're playing, like some people have 20 ping, some have 5, some have 60, some have 80, and you're all in one server. It's like if you don't have an op with 80 ping, you're screwed against the 5 ping guy. Just wide swing with a rifle, you're just dead before you can even react. But I mean, there's only so much Source 2 can fix in that regard. Maybe if I try to pick up a gun by pressing E on it and there's a grenade on it, if they could fix that issue for once, I don't know. Maybe it's done finally.
I'd also say like the point he was making there about like the game like eating the bullets when you play online, that's also obviously like packet loss. Like the ping might be fine, but you don't know how good the actual like the netcode is essentially. And so like the classic example there used to be if you ever played on ESCA back in the day, because they had that feature where you could see the actual amount of damage after every round and who did what. You would literally spray a guy where if that was a LAN game, you'd like hit like 6 bullets in him and then it'd say like you did 20 damage from one bullet.
You'd see the blood
like,
everywhere too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly on your client, you'd see the decals, right?
You see it like two bullets hit with the blood, like 2 blood spatters, and then it's like one hit. Like what the fuck?
True.
But that's
I would
easy.
also say, by the way, in terms of general performance issues, I also think that's the thing to look forward to is let's get some graphical updates. Because one of the bad things about CSGO is it's such an old game now compared to the modern games that like graphics cards barely interact with the game. It's all about how much CPU power you have, how much RAM you've got. Like, I'll just tell you a quick anecdote, Monty. Our boy Maui Snake, who's obviously new to the esports scene, did an absolute social faux pas if you're a nerd, where on Twitter he was basically like, what the hell? I just bought this new graphics card, like the new Nvidia, and it's like I'm getting 10 FPS less. And then he was one of those noobs who doesn't know that like the number isn't literally like an absolute value. Like the first number is actually the series or whatever, and then it's like the next one. So he'd actually gone and bought like a worse graphics card with a higher end number, like beginning number.
He got like a mid-series of the new.
He'd gone from like 280 to like 370, and he thought, 370 is above it. It's like, well, that's Series 3, like 7. So basically for CS, it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't interacting with the GPU anyway, so it was actually worse for him. So there's an example, because the people don't know. It doesn't make sense, does it, that a game that came out in 2012 can still barely get the best FPS on like the best tournament machine in the world that didn't exist in 2012. But that's because, unfortunately, they haven't optimized it for modern technology. It used to be the same with 1.6. Like, dude, at the end of 1.6, there would still be tournaments where the PC was crashing, and you were like, the game came out 13 years ago. How is this possible? But because it wasn't engineered for the new tech, was it?
Cool. I think this is a good question, especially relevant to our Flashpoint teams. Steel, how was playing against MIBR with TRK versus Myron? What was the difference that you noticed?
The difference is that we had 3 different players than when we played them last. So.
Fair enough.
I feel like pistol rounds were easier because Myron just like one taps everyone in pistol rounds, but then I don't know, TRK got like multiple like really big like 3K rounds, not even like 3K, like sometimes it was just like a 2K, but it's like, you know, those situations he should get maybe 1 and we should trade him out instantly, and he's getting like 2 or more. And a round that goes from like, you know, a 4v2 in our favor, like winnable, into like, oh, we just lost this and now our money's reset and we're fucked. I think that was a big thing, that he was just able to lock down his stuff. Not to say that Marin couldn't, it's just that that's what happened in this match.
Xizt. Some people want to know how it is to play for Dignitas instead of your former rosters like NIP, Fnatic.
You mean like organization-wise or player-wise?
I mean, you have a lot of the same players, so I would go with organization-wise.
Well, Fnatic players. No, but like, I think organization-wise, I think they're really a lot more professional org.
Shocking.
It's the same owners as the 76ers Philadelphia and the New Year's Devils, so it's like so much more professional organization. Also, Fifth Lauren, he's like our GM/coach, so we're dealing a lot with him, like day-to-day stuff. So it's easy for us to play for Dignitas.
Very good. Hold on, I'm going through. While I look for more questions, do you have any thoughts about the MIBR roster change, Thorin? There are some people asking for your opinion as well.
Can you hear that in the background, by the way? Is there a background sound?
No.
Oh, never mind then. I don't mind it as a move. Like, the big problem they had was that everyone knows by now is that short of basically, as far as I can tell, buying the Furia org, they just cannot access those players. And those players are the best players in Brazil right now, except for Cold Zero, who's sort of not bad in phase. So you're basically going to have to try someone different. And this is actually a move where a lot of people won't remember this. But one of the moments when we found out that actually being a top North American org doesn't help you when you're trying to buy Brazilian players was this same player. Immortals tried to get him when they had the whole like KNG, Henny Lucas thing where they were departing. They tried to get this guy because he was on that guy Team 1 who actually came like 4th at a WESG like 2 years ago or something. So they tried to get him back then when no one else knew him except this one tournament. And supposedly the buyout, and this is a few years back, even then they were asking for some mad buyout, like $80,000 for a player who'd never played like a real tier 1 tournament. So the problem is, like, as far as I know, he's been in the mix in terms of names on the radar for these squads. So to me, it reminds me a little bit actually of them getting Lucas Swan, but doing it like 3 years after they first tried it. It's like you keep going down the same short list of names and you think, well, I was trying it years ago, so I'll try it again now, I guess. Like, I think the main problem for me is getting talent has never been the actual problem for MIBR. It's that when they get the talent into their team, they just make them half as good somehow. Like, it can't be that, like, Phelps just sucks only in MIBR. KNG sucks only in MIBR. Mayan sucks only in MIBR. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, at that point, fundamentally, there's something about the team where you just maybe can't work with newer players or you won't give up certain roles to the younger players. I don't know what it is. could even just be, as harsh as this sounds, I'll even draw the analogy for League of Legends. There's an element that's a bit like joining TSM in League of Legends, where you know the second you make a mistake, you're the new guy, you'll get all the blame, you'll get scapegoated, and even worse, the fans like can't blame the other people because they're the people they love, like Fallen and Fur, the ones you want to watch play, Bjergsen and Double Two you want to watch play. So if it's a new guy, you're going to put all your hate on that guy. So I imagine the pressure of playing for this kind of a team when you've gone from like tier 3 to tier 1, it must be insane, along with whatever issues they're having working these players in. So I don't mind the move. It's not a bad one. I still think somehow one day they have to get those Furia players if they ever want to be like real MIBR.
Here's an interesting question about because you guys are both IGLs. This one's for Steel, but I think Xizt obviously has introduced new players, like even now with you introducing Halzerk into the lineup. How do you guys, when you get new players in your roster, especially players who may not have had a lot of competitive experience, how do you introduce them to your game plans or sort of train them in game to be in a more structured strat calling environment?
I don't have a structured style calling environment, so that doesn't really make sense to me. But I can tell you,
what I mean is there's a difference between them playing pugs and them being in a game with an IGL, is what I mean.
So in an ideal situation, I haven't been able to do it really on Chaos just because we've had new players every week, so it hasn't really been I haven't had a chance to. But ideally, you go over a map, you explain like, okay, like these are like the goals, this is what, like if we're in this type of situation, like I like to work this area, I like to end here are the reasons why. I think it's like easier to end here, I think it's harder to hold as a CT or on T side. On CT side, like if we're in these situations, we should play like give this up and play to hold this. And then you just basically you play, you get used to each other, you understand like what the strengths and weaknesses of the players are, and then you try to like come back and do a review session of like, okay, like we need to find a solution for, when we're in this type of situation, you would go and do this, but I would go and do that. Let's find out how we can get like not so much a compromise, but a middle ground where it works for all of us. We're all company. Maybe it means switching spots. Maybe it means going at different paces. Maybe it means reassessing like the philosophy. Maybe it means like there's been many times where I've been challenged in my opinion. I've been like, oh, okay, like I used to do it like this, but here's like a different perspective, and maybe doing it like that is better. And I just scrap what I thought was good, and then we do it this other way instead. And then you kind of like incorporate that. You play some more practice games, and then after the practice games, you look at the games back and you do the review, and you say, okay, like here, like this is where we messed up, and you just keep doing that process over and over again until you're all in the same wavelength. That boom, we're in this situation. We got this kill on this player at this position. We know we're setting it up this way instead of that way, and here's the pathing, and this person's waiting for the rotates and holding the flank, whereas these guys are going up and actually taking more space. This is the pacing we're going. These are the core flashes that we need to know and the core smokes we need to know. And then that's how you get to that point. And that process takes several months. So if you only have like 2 weeks with this player and then they dip to Valorant and then you pick up another player and you start over again, you're resetting, like you're going back steps, because even if I've learned something in those weeks or 2 with this new player, to go back and you have to go back to square one with this new person, even though I've learned this stuff, we have to go back and be like, okay, let's go back and just play, see what each other's like, and then we can go incorporate and figure out the middle ground for us two now, even though me and this other guy had this other thing that worked.
Does this sound similar to your experience Xizt when you integrate new players into your calling system?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to make the new player comfortable. You want to kind of play around him, especially with Halzerk. He's the upper, he's our playmaker, I would say. So I ask him like what he likes to do, and then we try to make strats around that, at least in the beginning. And then after some time, we incorporate him into how we want to play as well. So we kind of mix both our play styles together, I would say. But yeah, I think the most important thing in the beginning is to make him comfortable and not to say like, hey, you're going to play here, 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 and here, and maybe he can't play those spots. We took him because he's been playing good in his previous teams, and then he needs to play those spots, I think, most of them at least. And then you can learn slowly to maybe change a few spots over the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't fully agree with that. I've played with players that you literally bend over backwards to make them happy. I'm not saying this is like necessarily your case with Hellswork, especially like a person that's an opper, you kind of need to make them comfy and kind of play around their strengths. But like if they're just like a regular just player on the team, you can't bend over backwards to make them happy, because like you can't be like, okay, we'll give you this spot. Oh no, you don't want that spot. You want this other spot. Okay, like, we'll give you that. I'll switch positions. Okay, you don't like going here on T side. I'll do your thing and you do this thing, and you just bend over backwards to make people happy and comfy. And then suddenly you, as an IGL, you lose control of like what made you successful as an IGL. So I've done it where I went from being like the lead entry guy on teams to being like the second one in, but then the first guy in didn't go in fast enough, and then the lurker wanted to be part of the pack because that's how another team did it. So you become the lurker, and now the people that are in the pack, the 3 people in the pack, they're not talking enough. They're not mid-rounding enough. They're not saying like, okay, we can go here now, and you're on the extremity of the map looking at radar saying like, okay, I can do this. I can create this space so you guys can go here. And then they're not even responding to you. It's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? And maybe it's just the players that I had at the time or whatnot. And maybe it's not like the case for every team, but there's got to be some sort of middle ground where you want to make people happy and comfy, but you need to actually do something that the team's it's gonna be best for the team as well. And sometimes that means that people are gonna be in uncomfy spots or have to learn new spots.
Yeah, no, I think it's different from players to player. I think, like when I came into the scene in 1.6, I kind of just took the spots that I was given, I think, and I think having players like that, I think, are very rare nowadays. Like every young player who wants to just come in and be like the star player. You don't see a guy coming into a new team now and say like, hey, I can play the roles as
Pugs.
like Taco is playing in MIBR, for example. You don't see those types of players anymore.
Why is that?
I mean, you just said it. Like the
the
problem
pug
is they all
system.
want to be the superstar. Basically.
Yeah.
So it's just a
So,
motivate. It's an ego issue, not the fact that these people don't
not
exist.
it's not exclusively an ego issue though. It's the community, it's stats, it's the pug system, what it rewards. Everyone's looking for, like, if you're trying to get into a new team, you're not going to get into a new team by being like maybe being an IGL, because people are like, well, we need an IGL, and then you'll kind of pick up stock that way, or maybe as an offer. But if you're just a rifler, just a regular rifler, every team's got like 3 of them, right? It's like, what's going to set you apart from this other guy? Well, he has higher ADR, more frags per round or whatever like that. So people are going to play for those types of stats. And then because they're playing for those types of stats, they don't know how to do, people don't know how to like offer flashbangs for teammates. It's like, how do you not know how to offer, like, I'm here, I'm saying what's happening, you're close enough that you can throw a flashbang for me, just say like, I can flash behind you, or don't even ask, just flash behind me and say I'm flashing behind you, and then you're good to go. And this doesn't exist today, because you come up in systems like ESEA Pugs or FPL, like face at level 10 or whatever, then you go to FPLC, and then you come into FPL, you have 0 like teamwork experience because you're playing with other people that don't communicate, don't offer flashes, so you never learned how to communicate or how to be a good team player. You get these crazy good stats because you know how to aim, because you sit in the DM for 2 hours every day, and then you actually get picked up by a team and you look like a lost puppy.
I'd also even say, like, on the stats angle, some of it definitely is the community as well, because like this is where you know that a lot of people who watch the game, their eye test for the game is busted, because all they do is go off the stats. So the joke is, until someone explained to people what the concept of like a support player is, or supportive elements to the game, people did just used to look at whoever had the least kills and say he's obviously the worst player, get him out of the team. But then what's ridiculous is, once you then get the rep, Taco's a great example because he obviously won majors doing this. Once you get the rep as a support player, now you can just do anything. Like, the joke is their eye test's so busted that they can't tell when Taco's playing well or when he's playing bad. They either think he's terrible, the role doesn't exist, in which case cut him, or he's never playing bad because he's just in the bad spot. So it's just one of those problems where, like, I don't know that you'll ever really get the most casual fan to understand the nuance of that. So I just hope that in time the pro players and the teams are a bit less childish in that sense and just understand the value that some people bring to the game.
I think that this is also just an issue with stats being so poor in Counter-Strike overall, and so much based off of fragging and the sort of lack of more advanced or interesting metrics that could be designed in order to show off these players. But that's sort of like a entire scene problem in stats and CS in general. There was a good question up here. Where was it? We did talk a lot last week about going to the MR12 system instead of MR15. We're not going to get back into it this week, but as IGLs, and considering you guys are frequently calling when to buy, what do you think of the current economy? This person
Busted.
It feels like the
It's
loss
just-
bonus is way too strong. So busted? Why busted?
It's like this artificial way of preventing teams from getting these landslide victories. Like if you win 4 rounds in a row, and then the enemy wins 1, and then you win like the very next round, that's the old economy system. They would be screwed. But now it's like if you start T side and you kill like 4 CTs for like 3 rounds in a row, and you keep getting bomb plants, you get more money per round than the CTs do. You have better guns. They have like 2 people in a spot with less utility than you. You will eventually beat them in a round and then put them at like a $1,400 buy, and then you run away with more rounds. And suddenly, like, we don't see these. Like all the games are close now, artificially close. You don't see like games which are like complete blowouts as frequently as it used to be, and that's because it's more forgiving for like worse teams. So you can have these upsets if you're playing against a better team, and then you get these the round bonus, the loss bonus. If you keep it high consistently, you're going to be able to get more consistent buys in, and you're not going to be punished as severely for being as newbie. And then, depending on the map you're playing, you might just squeak out a win by fluke, basically.
Yeah, you can't really punish teams anymore. Like, if we win this round, they're gonna have 1.4. That was like the mindset before. So we can take this risk now. We can buy 3 AKs, give one to Forest, give one to Get Right. They're going. We have like this rounds specifically designed for the moneyfuck rounds, but you don't have this anymore. You can't punish teams anymore, and it just feels so satisfying doing them before.
They'll just get Deagle Armor next round and have a full by the very next round. It's like, okay, well, before they'd have to like literally. They would force buy and then double save after it if they lost. It's like 3-round swing. And now it's just like, they'll just do 1 save.
I'm actually going to make a piece of content on this where what I'm going to do is essentially I'm going to show the last map of the final of Flashpoint where Mad Lions comes back on CT side of Train. Because if you actually know the way the economy was going round to round there, it's already ridiculous that you have to win, I don't know, what was like 12 rounds in a row, something insane, with all those bomb plants, losing men every round. But then if you actually know what economy they were starting with on all these rounds, that they're winning, remember, the terrorists are losing these rounds. And the terrorists constantly just have all the weapons. And Mad Lions is buying like a FAMAS and a UMP on people every round almost on Train, where if they can isolate where those guys are, in theory, that's just the site gone. So it's actually like people don't realize the score wasn't the miracle of that game. The miracle was that they were playing MIBR and the economy, and they somehow beat them. I mean, even then with miracles. But I'll probably do a piece of content on that. To me, that's like the biggest match in recent memory that showed how utterly busted the money system is. Like, how can you be punished for winning just 1 billion rounds in a row?
Yeah, it's kind of dumb.
All right, I'm gonna knock out a bunch of Flashpoint questions that we get every week and we continue to get right now, which are, when is Flashpoint 2? Hopefully this fall. We are still waiting for confirmation from Valve because we have to schedule around the road to Rio and the major qualifiers. So that
we also can't leave our countries as well. There's that, minor detail. I don't know if this guy's aware of what's going on in the world right now, but it's not like we're all sat around on our asses going, you know what? I don't know if I'm bothered with Flash. No, you're not even allowed to hold tournaments right now.
Yeah. So pretty rough.
Wait, am I in Flashpoint 2 or do I have to requalify?
You have to requalify.
Yeah.
But obviously,
why am I here? Leave.
Because you enjoy the very intellectual and stimulating conversation that is happening on this stream right now.
It's titillating.
That's what I love to do, Steve. I love to titillate you. So heading into Flashpoint 2, that is why we don't know yet. Another question was, what are you guys doing to prepare, or is there anything going on between now and Flashpoint 2? So to give you guys a clue, like to be transparent with you, there are currently exactly 0 full-time employees at Flashpoint, okay? All of the people who work there are either contracted casters or contracted producers, or the leadership is literally people who are leadership within the teams that own Flashpoint. So what's happening right now is that we are trying to get some full-time leadership and full-time employees for the parent company, which is called Xizt, which you guys probably remember was Flashpoint's initial name before we had the branding for it. So we are going to add people to that company to be full-time so that we can start doing things. But Thorin can also tell you about some of the editorial stuff that he's working on. So we're doing what we can for the time being. You will see movement there soon. So Thorin, what are you working on?
Well, I got him to make an Instagram account.
We did it. We did it.
Got someone who's an artist to make a drawing of Mad Lions with a bit of, their own artistic vision. No, what we're doing basically is, like, as Monty said, we're basically still building the structure of what Flashpoint will be as a company. Like, who will work there? How will they operate? Who will be a full-time employee? Who will just work when it's the actual LAN portion? But between the actual tournaments, I'm getting it set up so we're going to have actual editorial content from some of the journalists in the scene that will chart the stories of the teams. It won't just be about Flashpoint. Like, if Xizt here goes and plays in some big tournament, if he plays in the major, then they might write an article about that because it's just that's a Flashpoint partner team. It doesn't have to be specifically just about Flashpoint 1. Similarly, just like the art that we released today, there'll be more art coming because I thought that's a pretty cool way to get the community involved. Like, some of the people who do awesome watercolors and whatnot, what a nice way to get an iconic team or a moment and kind of celebrate it. So there's a lot going on. It's just that at the moment, it's a lot of the mundane kind of like building the scaffolding before we can actually start doing the big things that people probably will really enjoy.
There's also one of the other thing that I'm really working on right now is that part of the ambition. So you have to remember that Flashpoint is the Counter-Strike specific brand. So it is the tournament that is run by Xizt, the company. One of the things that I'm working on with Xizt is bringing a lot of long-form shows over to Xizt. So in addition to running live tournaments, we also want to provide sort of year-round content on a variety of esports, including esports that we will never run a tournament in, such as League of Legends, to the platform so that it's not just live events, it's also shows that you guys can watch and enjoy as sort of a broader slate of content. So this is much bigger than just running one live event. It's about running multiple live events and then also running all these shows. So there's a lot happening.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
About long form. Long form traditionally doesn't have like the same like audience retention as like shorter form content.
Actually, at least in our experience, Thorn and Mai's experience, the average viewer on YouTube of Summoning Insight, our show, watches for over 30 minutes. So our retention is actually extremely good. And at least in my experience, long form content in esports, as long as it's directly targeted at one game, actually is the most popular kind of content, which Thorin has basically like built a career around. So
is that more podcasty stuff, or is that more about like if you do like, hours of just going outside and filming stuff and putting like editing stuff together as opposed to just like sitting around a round table Discord call?
I think it's a mix of the both. Like for example, I'm pretty sure most people, even though I don't actually have it on podcast apps right now, watch like the talk shows that I do like it was a podcast. Like they put a video on the background, they play a game or something. So they're kind of doing it like a podcast. I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
If I DM, that's what I do. I just put up like YouTube videos of people that are just talking to a screen where you don't need to actually look at it.
Yeah.
I'm with you, though. Okay. If you make like a documentary, obviously the fear is you spend months and months making it and then it just gets downvoted on Reddit and it gets like 100 views. Yeah, that can happen. I would just say there, like the hack there is it's not really the content that makes it work. Is for that, you basically need to kind of do what I've done. Like, build up a personality where you can get the, your brand is attached to it and makes people tune in or something like that. So I think if you go that approach, that's also the other way you can do it. But I'm with you. I would say in general, it's mainly people want the snappier stuff. So it's kind of a complicated topic on that one, but I think we can make it work anyway.
Yeah. So I think like it's going to be like certainly an interesting experiment, but I think overall the retention on those longer longer videos has always been extremely good as long as it's, the difference is like the way that I think about it is like traditional sports fans now, they're down for the Sports Center. Let's see all the highlights across all sports in one day. That's never worked in the 20 times that's been done in esports because fans just don't care about games that they don't care about and they just won't watch the content. And also, I think like it's much harder to appreciate good games or good plays in a lot of esports because you have to play the game to understand what why that play is good. Whereas if I see a dude jump, 3.5 feet in the air, I just understand that's inherently impressive from being a human being who's alive. So that is to say, like, generally this long form content or hyper targeted content does better in my experience with these metrics. But
I think another thing could be like the people that are more willing to click on a hour long summoning thing, insight thing, is going to they're seeking out that type of content.
Yep.
So they're going to stick it through. Whereas someone who's not interested in it, it's not even going to click it to begin with, type of thing, right?
Probably.
That's also part
So maybe
of it
that's
as well.
what, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's the other thing is, like, if I do content, I'm trying to do it for people who are like pretty hardcore fans because they watch professional Counter-Strike matches. So yeah, you're right. I'm sort of targeting the audience. Whereas if you were just putting a general documentary about Counter-Strike, who knows who that would even go to? Like, I think that's also part of it, because if I think of other content that works long form, classic example would be those documentaries they make for TI every year in Dota. Like, the whole point is that's pretty hardcore to watch that. Like, you're not watching that if you just never played any MOBA before in your life. Like, you'd never get into it. So I think that's another area that people have missed a trick in esports, is they always wanted esports to be mainstream. So they acted as if it was and tried to explain it to every person who could watch. Whereas the genius now is we've already got all the viewers. We haven't monetized them, true. We've already got hundreds of thousands of people who watch these things. So why not just make it for the hundreds of thousands of people? Like, they're already there.
Yeah, and I think it's just the ethos of how Flashpoint was founded is that the goal was this is content for hardcore esports fans, and then the shows are also going to be content for hardcore esports fans. Like, everything is just moving in that direction. So that's where we're going. Let's see here. We got some specific questions, so let me take a look at these. Do we know how often we would like to do a Flashpoint CSGO? Twice a year is the answer to that. We don't want to, obviously the open circuit is very important to Counter-Strike, but also want to, take up 12 to 14 weeks, I would say, of the year for Flashpoint. Separated into 2 segments would be ideal. What changes can you expect come season 2? More teams, production advancements. Lots of people were asking, are there going to be more teams that are going to be added as partners? Depends on if the right teams come along. We're not just going to, we don't have like a quota that we have to fill. We're just going to do it as it makes sense.
I've got a question for these guys on those lines then. What would actually you guys want to see differently in Flashpoint 2? Or what did we not do in Flashpoint 1 that you thought would have been cool?
Communication was kind of ass. Just like figuring out I mean, part of it was like the pandemic was coming. We didn't know like things about like, were we going to play online versus on LAN? There was a situation where we're in LA and we're like in the middle of phase 1, and I know that other team players from other teams are going home to play, and so I came back to Arizona, which was like, it's a 1-hour flight, but then like we get told like after I get back to Arizona, like, no, you have to play the matches from LA. So I changed my ticket to fly back to LA the very next day. I get back to LA and they're like, never mind, like you can play from anywhere.
That's
so it's like, okay,
bad.
great. Like,
sorry about that.
Fuck me, I guess.
That's pretty awful.
Yeah. So then I stayed in LA for a few more days, just risking my life on the planes with the pandemic going on. Flew back to Arizona like
Jesus.
5 days later, a week later, whatever. And then I played phase 2 from online. So like that could have been better. Just like we had the practice PCs were in, I guess, like the studio area where we just had like a curtain. It's like, okay, well, they can't see our screens, but they can fucking hear everything we say,
Sure. Everyone's
just hanging out, getting the food right behind us. Like if we're playing against another team, we can't see if they're behind us, but they could just be hanging out, listening to what we say. So that was kind of ass, but it's like, I mean, those were things that my team saw with regards to like the actual tournament format and stuff like that. I guess like everything went pretty smoothly. Like, for the most part, we were generally happy with everything. I would like to see, when we were doing the media day stuff, I did a somersault. I'm 30 years old. I think this is an impressive feature for me. So if I could see that footage at some point, that'd be awesome.
Did that go on the cutting room floor?
Dude, I was surprised. I was shocked that it wasn't put in. It's like this 30-year-old man playing video games is just doing a somersault in the media stuff. It's like, why was this not put in?
Very specific complaints. Well, you exist. Anyone book your wrong flight or anything?
No. I booked the flight. That's what pissed me off. I'm like, I wanted to. Yeah. Anyways.
No, but I think the media and everything, like the intro to the tournament on the stream was really cool. It's sad we couldn't make more of those. I think like media stuff and all of these things. And I think the one day we played on LAN, the studio was sick and the PCs was good, the admins was good. I can't really complain about anything there. It's just very unfortunate about the pandemic happened and we had to play from apartments in all across LA, I think, or USA. But like I don't know, one thing that we felt maybe because we were in quarantine at apartments, like we played one game, then we had a break for 3 days. It just got kind of boring,
Yeah.
you know.
We're
Just
all
having so
bored.
many
We're
off
all
days.
bored exist.
Yeah.
Well, you're
that's
not.
one thing, by the way, that does suck. And I know you guys will know that because Fiflan would have shown you. Like, the best part about it being in LA is everyone would have been
Yeah.
going and having Korean barbecue all the time. Going, there's a million places you can go and do stuff. Obviously, that's the one thing we couldn't do when all the pandemic stuff hit.
I think
I think like on the off days you would do a lot of media as well that we couldn't do now, so it would have filled the time there.
I think everything was overshadowed by the pandemic of just like evolving, and that made everything like really in question. But like, what could we do and what couldn't we do, and where are we supposed to be, and where we planned to be but can't anymore? I think that's what caused like a lot of the issues. So it's like it's not fair to just be like, yeah, it was kind of shitty. But like for the most part, like the tournament day was good. Like I like how like the teams were introduced, and I mean I guess the group selection process was kind of cringy. Like I don't think the right personalities were on there, but
I think
the concept was
Are you
okay.
talking about Smooya?
Smooya was great.
Yeah, he was
he-
carrying that.
Yeah, he was hilarious. I think that as the players get used to that, I think that I think that as time goes on and people get used to doing that, it will get better. But yeah, I think
if
that
you get the bigger personalities in CS:GO as well on there, I mean, you want Simple, you want Device, you want
yeah.
the big names on that stage talking shit to each other. I think that people will find more interesting than Smooya talking shit to some NA
I don't know.
type
Smooya was
guy.
pretty funny, to be fair. He did what he could for being Smooya. He did a great job. What do you think the max number of teams you could see being in Flashpoint? Like that's an
Top end's probably 16. I would
say in the next 2 years, I would say 16. Just because it's like as partner teams, right? Formats start to get really weird if you get beyond 16 teams. And also, if we're just talking about Counter-Strike, like, do we need more than 16 teams in a tournament? My answer is no. If we're talking about, in my ideal world, because I prefer team-owned and run leagues or team-owned and run tournaments instead of developer-owned and run tournaments. That's my personal preference. If we were expanding into other games and maybe not every team was in every game, or the esports industry itself were to expand massively, I could see 32. But that's like 5 to 10 years from now. That would be like a really long-term play. Here's a question for you, Xizt. What do you think about Lecro changing, or like NIP removing Lecro and the roster management of that roster?
Well, I think the roster management is pretty bad there, or it was bad. I don't know how it is now, but I don't think the other 4 players knew that Lecker was going to be changed until he was. Like they had no idea. Like I don't know. So I was pretty surprised by it as well. I think Lecker has been playing really good last month or months. But I don't know. I guess they wanted like an in-game leader. I know Lecker has been like on the fence about it, 50-50 if he wants to do it or if he doesn't want to do it. So, but I'm still surprised that they chose to replace Lecro. I think he's a really good role player. He can play any role in that team. So yeah, I was just surprised.
Was that just for Xizt, or did they ask for everyone?
I mean, I'm sure you have an opinion.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Steele? I mean, basically, it comes down to a mixture of either the specific move or the big abstract topic is how much input should the pro players have in who their teammates are, basically. So what do you think of the latter part if you don't care about the Swedish scene?
I don't know enough about the situation and comment specifically on the situation, but I'd say that if the team's management is making the decision for like who's on the roster, who's coming out, who's going in, and they don't consult the players, I think that's completely just stupid. I know plenty of managers on teams in esports that literally have no like thumb on the pulse of what's actually happening in the day-to-day lives of the players and how they feel about each other and how they feel about other players. It adds like question about like, this dude was just like replaced in a whim and we had no idea about it. Like, are we next? Like, does it sow a seed of doubt in that regard? If the players didn't like have an opinion on Lekro and they wanted to keep playing with him and they don't want this new player, are they just gonna be like, the fuck is going on? Like, can we get Lekro back? So I don't know about the situation. That's why I don't really want to make a comment. That's just my experience. I think the players should have some sort of say. I think the coach should have some sort of say. And I think the GM should just kind of speak to everyone, find out what the general consensus is, and then make the most educated decision based off of all that information. And they should be they should know what's happening in the day-to-day activities of the team. They should be like, okay, what's happening during practice? Which players are having issues with each other? What's Lecro doing as an IGL? Like, is someone else able to do it better? If we have this person in mind, what can they do that Lecro can? Should we have Lecro switch to a different role and just bring in an IGL and replace a different player? These are all questions that I'd have. I don't know enough about the situation, so I'm going to shut up.
Fair enough. I'll probably do a video on this topic, actually, both the abstract and the individual one. On the NIP side, I would just say, like, it's tough because the main issue is the idea that the other players didn't know and that this was a shock. Like, I agree with Steele. Like, at a minimum, you at least consult them. Like, these are players you want to build a team with for years to come. Like, also, again, what are the odds that the person who's a manager knew exactly what this guy did in the team? Like, the best example ever of this is when they removed Sticko from Mouse Spots a couple of years ago. And it turned out the players knew that he was like coming for people when he was dead. But the guy who's a manager doesn't know that. He just hears that the whole community's going, he's fucking terrible. And then he sees the stats and goes, well, I'll upgrade this guy. I'll get that Snacks guy from Virtus Pro. And even though they did win one big tournament, like the move in general was pretty much panned. Like it made them a worse team overall. So even though I actually think you can have a very interesting discussion about like the future of general manager roles and that if we're going to put millions into teams, that should become its own role, which by the way, here's the key thing. When I say I want general managers to have the power to remove people, they should then be fired themselves if they fail that job enough times. Just like a player, they shouldn't just get to do 50 wrong moves. Obviously, that's the concept is they get the responsibility and you make that a role which becomes its own thing and hopefully one day is very high paid. In fact, my dream would be one day people like you are the general manager of the team. Like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're the guys who pick the next place. The difference is you'd have the qualifications to do it, and it'd be a job just like being a pro player. So I think it's a really nuanced one because we're sort of moving from the era when the players decided everything. At the moment, the problem is that we've got people who, as you said, just basically know nothing about the game or the players trying to make the decisions. So the transition's really bumpy right now, but I think eventually it'll be the right approach. And then in terms of actually Lecro himself, again, that's a tough one because I can't really know what he did in the team. I will just say as an outsider, I get where they were coming from with the move. Like in theory, like as I said, the thing they sort of needed was like a real IGL because Threat can only talk during the timeouts, obviously. And I would say that the problem I have is I don't know enough about Hampers as an IGL. Like I haven't known many of his teammates to know if he's a good enough IGL to make the move worth it. Because Lecro was a decent enough player. So even though I agree they needed an IGL, that doesn't mean just any IGL, obviously. Like you need the right IGL. So that's the one part I can't really comment on that move.
All right, let's ask one final question. There's been a guy in here who actually has been quite insistent about this. Let me scroll up. What do you guys think of the current one main opper meta from 2015 to 2017? Or they're saying from 2015 to 2017, you used to have active second oppers like Coldzera, Nico, Olaf Meister, Stewie, etc. So what has been the change since 2017 in the last 3 years? And what do you guys think about it?
I think on a lot of maps there are still two ops, like Dust 2, you're frequently see double op. Train, you'll see it. Nuke, it's a lot of close quarters, so one op's enough. You put them outside or you just move them around, put them downstairs, put them around, put them up or randomly. Overpass, again, like you can have that second op on B at the pillar area and kind of shut down certain angles. But for a lot of the maps, like, if you're going to compare double op in the current meta to like, Cobblestone was a huge 2-op map and it got replaced by what, Vert or was a different map. Dust 2 came in for it.
Dust 2, I think, yeah.
I don't even remember at this point. I mean, both of those are heavy op maps. I'm not fully understanding the question because I know a lot of teams do run double up on CT sides, and on T sides, I know in Source double upping was kind of like popular. You'd have one guy that's like kind of with the pack doing stuff, and the second one's holding rotations, lurking, because all you have to do is like if someone peeks you basically you kill them in one shot, and they're afraid to peek you for info to see like where you are, if you're there or not, and it's really punishing. You control the flanks and the rotations, and that's fallen out of meta in CS:GO, but that fell out of meta like probably like before CS:GO even started. So it's hard for me to answer that because I don't think double opping fell out of meta. I think most teams still do it.
It's very expensive to have like a double up setup. Obviously, you want to have it as like a bonus. If you can do it, you do it, and it's like a surprise move, I would say. You don't really want to be a team that relies on having double up all the time.
There's a rule that some teams have where it's you buy one, and then if you pick up the enemies up to have two, then that's when you run two, but you don't buy the second one.
I would say this also, I mentioned this on the last episode when we were talking with Sloy and them. I would say this is also another victim of the new CS economy. Because if you notice, the side that gets fucked the hardest is the CT side, which is where typically, as Steele pointed out, you run the double AWP. So, like, if you know those terrorists are getting bombs down and kills, even in rounds they're losing, good luck buying double AWPs over and over again. That's just a fast way to make yourself absolutely broke in the game. So, I think with most teams, it just doesn't make as much sense. But I agree with Steele. Like, on certain maps, and especially the teams that are the best on those maps, they do still run it, I would say, fairly often. It's just people probably nostalgically remember it happening more. Like, it's not like Cold Zero did it all the time. He did it very specifically based on the game or the half that he was playing, you know.
All right. I lied about the last question. This is truly the last question because I think we can answer this one quickly. Somebody's asking, do you think best of 7 finals is too much? Yes, because it would be like a 7.
I can't even get these guys.
I can't even. I can't. So if you include all breaks and everything and timeouts and everything, that would be like potentially like a 7-hour long final. So is it too much? Yes, but also like here's the real question that I will translate for this person. Best of 3 or best of 5 finals. Personally, I think best of 3 are sufficient. Best of 5s can be very long. And also, anecdotally, in Counter-Strike, when I've seen best of 5s, there have been so many 3-0s in Counter-Strike, and best of 5 finals is kind of ridiculous.
I would say best of 3 is probably best for both the players and, I guess, the audience. But I would not do a best of 3 if it's like a double elimination thing where it's like best of 3 with a map advantage. I would say if that's the case, do best of 5 map advantage because that's the
that's a stupid format. Like, we will never give map advantages. I hate that.
Yeah.
I like best of 3 finals more as well.
Why is that? You think it's sufficient to show who the best team is?
I think best of 5s. I guess I don't know. Do people watch all the 5 maps?
I would say if it's like a multi-week long like major tournament that builds up to this big thing and you've got like the 2 best teams where the chances of like a 3 map blowout is like kind of minimal, but then again it's CS and the economy system's busted, and even though the Krieg's gone, it's still like who knows.
I think you get a lot of one-sided maps in a best of 5. You're gonna see a lot of like 16-3, and then the other team is gonna win 16-5 the next map. So I don't know. It gets more interesting with the best of 3, I think, as a viewer.
Personally,
here's the thing though. What about for majors though? Like you might have more majors right now, mate. You might have won that one against Fnatic if it was best of 5, right?
Yeah, possible. No, I think maybe like once a year, like at a major or something, you can have a best of 5 final. Like I don't know, but I feel like there's too many best of 5 finals now.
Oh, of course. So. I mean, the problem is all the big ESL tournaments do it for just by default because they use the same format. I agree. Like, even though I like best of 5s, I don't want like 10 of them in a year. Like, I want it to be like just a major or something. So you make sure, whoever wins, it's like something epic. I also think it'd be cool if you never played a best of 5 unless you reached a major final. That would be pretty cool because then to even get used to it, like it would also mean that the rookies can't just roll in there. And I'm basically just hating on Cloud9. I just don't want them to win that major.
I also think like, you know, if we had in an ideal world, and we talked about this last Q&A, I would rather see a best of 3 of best of 3s over multiple days than watch one best of 5. I would rather see teams play a best of 3 and then have a couple days off and then come back and play another best of 3. And if they tie 1-1, then have another couple days off and come back and play another best of 3. To me, that's the kind of perfect system where each individual section is, 2 hours long, so it's more manageable, but you get to see the evolution of strategy instead of just one like insanely long slog.
It would be cool in theory. I don't know how like the logistics
It's not
of it
practical.
would work.
It's not practical.
With like, well, in 9 days from now, they're playing at a different event. So
yeah,
get that.
I'm not advocating it as a realistic solution. I'm just saying in Monty's perfect universe what it would be. Okay, I'll let you guys go. It's been fun. We'll be back next Monday for another Flashpoint Q&A. Oh boy, I know you guys are all very excited. Thank you for joining us, Steal and Xizt. We'll see you at some point in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.